I'm just really excited to welcome Garuda. Hello.
Hi, Rajni. Hi, everyone.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, I'm very well.
Awesome.
It's hot here in the southeast of the UK, but excellent.
So I heard. So it's really hot.
Yeah.
Well, it's awesome to have you here. Thank you so much for joining. And yeah, like I just said, I'm super excited to hear about your offering, which I hear is called Illuminations to Sanskrit. Is that correct?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So over to you. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, where you're living now, and how you spend your time.
Okay, well, my name is Garuda, and I currently live in East Sussex in the UK with my wife, Sharada. Some of you may know Sharada, and my 2 boys. I'm an Ishaya monk, and I work I have my own small gardening business, which I run during the day. And in my spare time, any spare time that I do get, one of my major passions in life is Sanskrit and Vedas and the Upanishads, the ancient scriptures. So a lot of my time goes into exploring that. It's opened up my universe. So it's with great delight that I have the opportunity to share a little bit about it with you this evening.
Yeah, I mean, Sanskrit. Maybe a good question to start with is, what is Sanskrit? I mean, I know as a yoga practitioner, we dabble in it quite a lot. I'm very familiar with the words, the sounds, but do you want to just tell our viewers basically what it is?
Yeah, I mean, Sanskrit is a timeless language. So I would say ancient language, but even that's not true. It's a timeless language. It's a language to express the full power of divinity and humanity. It's mostly known in India, although it doesn't belong to that particular country because it's a universal vibrational language. And everyone has those vibrations inherently within their nervous system. So everyone is intimately connected with those vibrations at particular language. It's a difficult question to answer, but it's Sanskrit in the time that we have. But in a nutshell, that's probably it, just an ancient divine language.
And you're obviously English. I mean, how did you get into Sanskrit? I mean, that's a pretty random topic, no?
It's unusual, certainly. Yeah, it's I guess I got into it about 20 years ago. I was always into mythology. I've always loved mythology from many different cultures and so on. And I fell in love with Vedic Indian mythology. And all of that mythology is composed in the language of Sanskrit. So I started to sort of dabble with the language. And it was when I did my my mastery course in Canada, which is a meditation technique I practice and teach, that we listened to something called the Vedas, which is a Sanskrit based teaching. And I fell in love with it. As soon as I heard it, it woke something up inside me. It was so familiar and intimate to my soul. It kind of sealed the deal for me in a way. And things began to make sense, things that didn't make sense before. And so and then from there, it's just, it just flourished from there, really.
Yeah. I think, most people are, like I said before, most people are aware of a little bit of Sanskrit, because I know in my yoga classes, I play a lot of music in Sanskrit, and as you said, it has that resonance. And always after a class, people, you can see the change in them. You can see the change from when they've walked in quite stressed to when they leave, and they always ask me, what's this music, what is this, and I explain to them, and it's usually in mantra form. Yes. And and I think it's slowly coming back, or I think there's a remembrance of the resonance of the vibration of the words that's kind of like tapping into people again through yoga, through the Vedic, through traveling around the world, especially in India. It's become very popular now. So why do you think you know, why do you think Sanskrit's coming back? Why do you think it's very much needed now? Do you think it's very much needed now?
Yeah, I believe it's going to have a strong impact in the coming generations too, because one of the great benefits of Sanskrit is interconnectedness, the sacredness that it develops in the individual. And if there is a great need for anything in the world, it's that sense of interconnectedness, that sense of beauty, that sense of sacred respect, or not just for the environment or for oneself, but for your neighbors and everyone else. And I think Sanskrit is a great, it's a great kind of connecting link for that to take place. You know, Sanskrit has stood the test of time. You know, and it's morphed throughout the ages. You know, in the most ancient form of Sanskrit would be the Vedic Sanskrit, and then we have the classical Sanskrit, and then we have the more contemporary modern day Sanskrit. But at the basis of all of those three types of Sanskrit are the very thing that keeps it alive throughout the corridors of time. And that is the very structure, the root of the language itself. The root of the language itself is always buried within the experience of silence. It's always buried within the most purest vibrations of that experience of stillness in the present moment. And because of that, it creates like it creates a light beacon throughout time when humanity needs it most. And it's always been there when humanity needs it most. And I think that's why people are drawn to it from many different backgrounds, not just the Indian background, although it's being rekindled in their own country, which I think is amazing. But also, as you said, Rajni, everywhere else, you know, people are beginning to wake up. There's something in it. There's something. There's a great light in it. There's a great power in it, and people are drawn to it, and they can feel the beauty of it. You know?
And I think people are looking for that connection, aren't they? They know that they belong to something, and it's just, you know, having that. We were talking last night, there was a lot of talk about curiosity, and you know, there's this pull to find what it is. You know, it's that something that you know you've got, something that everyone else has got, but what is it? And you say you speak from the silence. It comes from the silence, it comes from the stillness. Yeah. And do you think people are looking more to finding that peace within, to find that connection through whatever practices there are out there, such as Sanskrit, meditation, music, those kind of things?
Absolutely, yeah. I think people are waking up, and whatever path they choose to walk, you know, they're finding, you know, Sanskrit is just a powerful tool to bring you to that experience, you know, and not only that, but enhance that experience once you have that experience, you know. So
and
yeah.
How do you use Sanskrit in everyday life? How can that be applied?
Well, I'll tell you how I use it. So one of my most favorite things to do ever is that when all my responsibilities are finished throughout the day, I like just to sit and translate various scriptures, and use them as a meditation practice. You know, so I get still and centered, and then I introduce the mantras into that experience. And when you do that, the aliveness of the language kind of colors your experience, and you get to experience the mantra itself, the intelligence, the divine wisdom within the mantra itself. So that's one of my most favorite things to do. I just get so much joy from doing that. So, you know, a little bit of practice doing that every day is a wonderful thing. But people use it in a myriad of different ways. If in prayers, they can use it in even the structure of the language helps to develop such clarity of focus and discrimination and reasoning that it helps in other activities in life also. You know, so there's been a great deal of research, scientific research done on the benefits of studying it on just a purely intellectual point of view, and the benefits are mind-blowing, literally. So it depends what you want to get out of the exploration of the language. But if you want to touch the beauty of your own soul, if you want to experience the great wave of joy that brings, then a little bit of know-how, correct pronunciation, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to be a scholar to do it, you just have to apply the correct pronunciation, and a whole new world begins to open up. And then we start to recognize just how sacred each of us actually is, and how beautiful and wondrous each of us actually is. And when we recognize that within ourselves subjectively, we start to have that relationship with all things, all people, all animals, all plants, all the whole world, the whole universe becomes a sacred place to walk. And you know, to live a life like that is our birthright. You know, it's and so Sanskrit does that. It does that for me, and it can do it for anyone.
Oh, that's just, oh, that's so beautiful. So it's not even about using it for a certain aspect of yourself, of this. It's going way beyond that. It's just beyond the physical.
But it contains the physical too. You know, it's even the structure of the language. There is a great beauty within the structure of the language. You know, it's like with Sanskrit it's such an amazing language because it's a scientific language in terms of 100% accuracy in its pronunciation, in its expression. 100%. There's no ambiguity in pure Sanskrit. In other words, what you say is a transference from the vision of your soul to objectify it so someone can experience your soul. And there's no ambiguity in that transition, you see. And that's the vehicle of Sanskrit, what it does to the individual. But it brings something that's very abstract and sort of out there, sort of on a soul level, to a very concrete physical experience. You know, so the two things can be experienced as really one thing. You know, and so Sanskrit has such a rich, it's such a rich topic, and every aspect of Sanskrit you could study for a lifetime and never get to the bottom of it. You know, it's so, in a way, complex, and yet in another way, pure simplicity. You know, it's a funny dance. You know.
So where did it come from? Is that something you can answer? Is like, did someone physically write Sanskrit, or is it like a transmission that's just come through from source? Are there books on it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess we could look at it in two ways, Rajni. One is the very blueprints of life, the very blueprints of the universe is vibrational. Like this entire universe that we experience with our body is vibrational at its basis. You know, it arises from that pure experience of silence, and the very first thing to emerge is the most purest of vibration. And that purest vibration has a sound to it. And that sound is where we have the basis of the Sanskrit language. You see, that's why it's such a pure tool to practice. So in one respect, you could say it's a timeless language. It's beyond the surface level of our minds, you know, which is why it's known as Aksharam in Sanskrit, which means invincible. It means whether we believe it or not, it's there. You know, whether we choose to believe it benefit or not, it will forever vibrate as long as this universe exists in a sacred vibration. You see, so in that respect, timeless. You know, but there have been wonderful, incredible beings that have been so in tune with that they were able to articulate those sounds through their nervous system, and thus give us hymns, and not just hymns, but a myriad of different wisdoms and knowledges throughout time. You know, not just spiritual, but in fact, in the whole gamut of Sanskrit literature, it's only 15% that's spiritual. 85% is very scientific, artistic, poetic. So it covers the full myriad of human experience, you see.
Yeah, I mean, there's I mean, certainly for me, there's a misconception that Sanskrit is only from India, and it's only Indians that can, or you know, that it's a religion and only you can pronounce it in that language.
Yeah.
But as you said, you know, if it's going beyond beyond the physical, and you know, and everyone kind of has that resonance to it. They feel it, you know, they feel it because it's vibration.
Yeah.
And you know, as you said, it's timeless, so it's there no matter what. We can tap into that. It's already there for us.
Yeah.
And I think it's just wonderful. I mean, I've definitely seen people just be changed when they've heard it. Certainly, whereas Ishaya monks, you know, we've been through it with our mastery as well.
Sure.
And yeah, big impact. Can you apply Sanskrit in everyday life, like through just as you do when you sit there and you chant a little bit, you go through the pronunciations? Can anyone that doesn't study Sanskrit do something similar?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if it's just knowing a few mantras, you know, you can use them as a meditation practice. You know, eyes open or eyes closed. With a little bit of instruction, they very much can bring you centered to experience more of the present moment. And the more present we are, the more dimensions we experience within the Sanskrit itself. So absolutely, we don't need to study Sanskrit in order for it to have an impact. Just listening to it, as you said, has an amazing benefit on the nervous system. The healing that takes place on all levels, mind, physical, emotional, everything becomes aligned with those vibrations, and therefore will lead us directly back to the experience of silence, which is a place where we want to be, because that's the place we find peace.
Yeah. Well, since your face is illuminating right now.
Yeah, sorry, I should move my face. How's that? Sorry.
No, stay where you are. Stay where you are, because it leads on to the next question.
Okay.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about what you'll be offering on your masterclass?
Absolutely. I'm super excited about it. You know, I do light up when I share this.
Literally.
It's so dear to my soul. You know, I'm a great lover of Sanskrit. But what I hope to do is create a course where we can see the awe of the language and the relevance of the language, particularly for a non-Indian person. How can we benefit from listening or even just exploring a little bit of Sanskrit? The rich vocabulary, how it's made up, how organic it is to the nervous system. And so one of the first sessions, during the first session, the emphasis is on our approach to how we learn it, our approach to how we learn Sanskrit. So do we learn it from this really bizarre, complex thing from the outside in? And we can learn it that way from universities and so on, but sometimes we miss the soul of the language. Or do we learn it as a yogic language, which means an internal sort of revelation, an internal kind of respect and allowance and approach? If we can learn it from the very word, from the very get-go, then all of a sudden we start to recognize, actually, this language isn't that complicated to learn and to appreciate and to love and to draw benefit from, because we start to recognize that those vibrations are actually emanating and creating our nervous system. You see, they're not just objectifiable vibrations that fly around the universe, that create the universe. Our nervous system and the external universe are so intimately connected that they're one organism, essentially. And so if we have that understanding through a direct relationship with that understanding, then it becomes a very different thing to learn. You see, it becomes more of an adventure, an easy thing to attain. It's very, very enjoyable.
Yeah, and it's so, you know, I think you just hit the nail on the head. You know, it's all about the nervous system, isn't it? We all live through our nervous system.
Yeah.
And it's mind-blowing, and especially with the times how the world is at the moment, the chaos that's going on. I mean, there's so much stimuli, and that's all going through our nervous system. And of course, you know, it's no wonder there's a lot of people going through stuff. You know, myself included. It can be very up and down, and without a structure or a kind of practice to help you just release and calm down, you know, especially in what I do, it's breath work and meditation. You know, it's so important to just have that downtime to bring yourself back to truly what you are. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and to see how amazing that you are also, you know, how magnificent and sacred you are, you know, and you know, you're like a unique sculpture in the entire universe. You know, that's precious beyond belief, you know, and Sanskrit brings you to that realization. Yeah. Is that how it's changed your life? It's just made you realize more of your existence? Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it filters out, so you know, you respect all life, you know, from the minutest insect to the, you know, the biggest mountain. You know, there's a respect and a relationship there. Yeah, and it started to just transform your understanding or your experience. So with your masterclass, is it open to anyone? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. It's open to anyone that has an interest, obviously, in the language, but not just that, but anyone that wants to enhance their interconnectedness with life, to start to unravel just sacredness within their own soul, bring a little bit of their soul into out here so people can experience how great they are. These are all byproducts of exploring the language, you know, and it's not the course itself isn't going to be intellectually arduous, because I'm not intellectually arduous, so it's not going to be like that, but it's going to be very much experiential. Yeah. Where you can taste the power of the vibrations and hopefully incorporate it into your spirituality. Yeah, wonderful. So here's a fun question for you. Sure. There's a book out about you. What's the title of the book? of my book? Yes. What would you call your book about you? Silent Songs to God. Silent Songs to God. Yeah, it's a book of poetry, actually. I wrote it eons ago. I have it. Oh, do you? Oh, good. Yeah, it is. It's absolutely stunning. It's stunning. It's stunning. It was gifted to me, and it was just beautiful. Yeah, definitely from another realm, source, universe. Yeah, it's, you know, I love poetry, and that's one of the things about Sanskrit. Also, it's a poetic language. In the manner of speaking, it's the greatest of poetry. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, is there a little taster that you can give our viewers to play with, to kind of like entice them into your masterclass? You know, there's a mantra that you can play with if you so choose, and the mantra is Aim Ram Namaha. Actually, it was a mantra given by my teacher to a few of us years ago. It's a very ancient, powerful mantra, and it basically, Aim means to focus on. So even the vibrations of AIM, Aim. I'm going to write this down as well. Aim, yes. Aim, which means focus. Ram, which is one of the most ancient names for God, source. Ram, R-A-M, Ram. Namaha, which means surrender. So Aim Ram Namaha. N-A-M-A-H-A, Namaha. And it means surrender to God. My soul surrendered to God. And you can either externalize that by creating the sound. And I'd recommend, just to get into the mode for the class, is that you practice it in a myriad of different ways. And we'll go into detail about it during the master class. But you can externalize the sound, Aim Ram Namaha, and then leave a space, and then chant it again, Aim Ram Namaha. And then you can whisper it to yourself very softly, which has the effect of moving the senses back internalize into oneself. So the mind naturally becomes quieter, Aim Ram Namaha, when you whisper it. and then have a go at just thinking it in your mind and leave a space. So practice doing those 3 ways, the different levels of mantra, and we'll talk more about that over on the masterclass. There's 3 ways you can practice that mantra, and it's a very, very powerful mantra. Okay, so play. It's pretty awesome.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely going to try that one. Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Garuda. Thank you for your wisdom and just your openness. It's been fascinating. And yeah, if any of you are interested, if this has resonated, then sign up. You know, I mean, look at his face. It's just bright. How could you refuse that? But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rajni. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, lovely. Take care.
Thank you. You too.